Every year on June 4th, we remember the Tiananmen Square massacre of 1989.
Now this year, our thoughts also go to the protesters in Hong Kong and in the United States. So in today's program, we take a closer look at why we protest. I'm Andrew Ryan.
I'm Natalie So. First, let's take a look at the stories on our radar.
The southern city of Kaohsiung is gearing up to vote on Saturday on whether to recall Mayor Han Kuo-yu. Behind the recall campaign is resentment at Han's decision to take time off to run for president in January, despite earlier promises that he wouldn't do so. Han lost that election. Will he lose the recall vote too? After 32 years, Taiwan's last evening newspaper has folded. The United Evening News published its last issue on Monday, citing a shift to digital media, changing reading trends, and the COVID-19 pandemic. The final cover featured all of the covers in the newspaper's history and the Chinese characters for thank you. More than a dozen print publications have gone under in Taiwan since 2001. Taiwan's constitutional court has struck down an 85-year-old law criminalizing adultery. Activists say the law had disproportionately been used to convict women and had even been used to pressure victims of sexual assault to stay silent. It's been called the most beautiful stretch of railway in Taiwan, and now, with a newly opened section of elevated track, the Southern Link line is even more beautiful. After 3 years of work, the elevated track is finally ready to offer passengers stunning views of the Pacific. And under the radar, and under the sea, a government research center has released 5,000 juvenile striped beakfish in waters off the outlying Penghu Islands. The goal is to increase the population of this native species and restore the local marine environment. Future releases of other species are also planned.
And now for our words of the week. Andrew, ready?
Yes. Happy.
Not
Help.
happy.
Helping hands. Helplessness. Oof.
That's right. Well, we're going to be talking about protests and why we protest. And psychologists say one reason is a shared sense of helplessness within the current systems. We'll be telling you more about the reasons behind why people protest in Taiwan Explained today.
All righty. Are you ready for my words?
Yes.
All right.
Help. Hold. Hope. Oh.
You know, I was
That's a
thinking,
positive word.
What word should I choose? And I was thinking, the obvious ones are outrage, anger, fear. But I thought that maybe I would choose something a little bit more positive, because I think if you're taking to the streets, if you are protesting, you must have even just a tiny little bit of hope that what you are doing is going to work. So I'm going to hold on to that.
That's a great word.
Great way to balance it out.
Yes.
2 H words.
Yes, that's right. Okay, let's put these on the shelf.
I want to start off today by showing you a photo. Have a look at this. This is a crowd gathered in Hong Kong in one of the many candlelight vigils that have been held over the years in memory of the Tiananmen Square massacre.
This year, for the first time in 30 years, Hong Kong police have banned the event. They say it poses a major threat to public health.
Now instead, organizers are calling on people to hold small gatherings and to light candles in honor of those who have died. And I know that the people of Hong Kong will, because they're no stranger to protests. Have a look at this photo. This is from a year ago this month. 2 million people took to the streets of Hong Kong to march for their own freedom.
Just like the people of Beijing did in Tiananmen Square 31 years ago today.
That's an incredible photo, isn't it? It's unforgettable.
It's unforgettable.
Yeah.
So why do people protest in places like Beijing, the United States, Hong Kong, and here in Taiwan? Well, that's the subject of today's Taiwan Explained. In today's Taiwan Explained, I'm going to tell you why we protest.
All right, Natalie, we've got 60 seconds on the clock. You ready?
Yes.
All right, go.
In 1967, at Stanford University, Dr. Martin Luther King explained why people riot.
I think America must see that riots do not develop out of thin air. Certain conditions continue to exist in our society, which must be condemned as vigorously as we condemn riots. But in the final analysis, a riot is the language of the unheard.
Psychologists say there's a tipping point when shared anger ignites collective action. In the US, it was the video of George Floyd being killed by the police. The Tiananmen protests were sparked by the death of pro-reform Communist Party chairman Hu Yaobang. In Taiwan, a similar student democracy protest began in March 1990 after National Assembly members extended their own terms and gave themselves a raise. Last year, an extradition law incited Hong Kong protesters who were afraid Beijing would take away their freedom. People protest when they don't trust the system and the authorities. We protest out of fear of what will happen if we don't.
Excellent job,
Thanks,
Natalie. That
Andrew.
was great. Gave you a couple seconds extra.
I think I needed that. That's a big topic.
It's a big topic, and I think it's really important to get all the
Yeah.
way through it. Yeah,
Thanks.
so thanks for that.
And that is our Taiwan Explained for the week.
What was the biggest demonstration in Taiwan's history? You may be surprised to know the answer. Are you guys ready? I'm going to be asking you today about some of the biggest events that have led people to take to the streets in Taiwan. All right, let's start off with a big one. Let's talk about the most violent protest in the last century. Do you know what that was?
Ooh, in the world?
No, in
No, in
Taiwan.
Taiwan. No, I don't know which one it is. Most violent.
It must have been 228.
228,
That's what I was
that's
thinking,
correct.
but that, I
So,
don't know if that counts.
yeah, that definitely counts.
Okay.
So that's the February 28th incident of 1947. Now, tensions were already high because the authorities had just come from China and they were ruling the local people with a pretty heavy hand at the time. Now, the flashpoint, do you know what the flashpoint was?
A cigarette seller, 40-year-old woman who got her cigarettes taken away because they weren't supposed to be sold.
That's right. The police actually hit her. This actually also reminds me of Eric Garner in New York City, also selling cigarettes. So what happened is they hit her. The crowd kind of went crazy, and then the police opened fire. So many people died in this incident. The result was they started martial law in 1949, and then the White Terror period, which saw tens of thousands of deaths. One of the darkest periods in Taiwan's history. So the number I want to ask you is, how many years was martial law in Taiwan?
It ended in 1987, so that's 38?
Excellent. Let's have a look at the answer.
Okay.
You are
Good job,
Natalie. Trying to do the math
exactly
there.
right. It was 38 years, and this is a picture from the 228 incident. Let's go on to from the most violent demonstration in Taiwan's history to the biggest demonstration in Taiwan's history. Can either of you guess what that demonstration was?
Was it against the military?
It was not against
It's not
the
that
military.
one, right?
I think the White Lily student movement?
It wasn't. I'm going to tell you because it's a really hard one. All right, let me tell you. This is the 228 hand-in-hand rally of 2004.
Oh.
Do you remember that?
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
So basically, people held hands across Taiwan. So for 500 kilometers from Keelung in the north all the way down to Pingtung in the south, people joined hands. They were protesting China's deployment of missiles aimed at Taiwan. It was also political in nature because 2004 was an election year. The question is, how many people participated in Taiwan's biggest demonstration? Remember, they stood hand in hand from Keelung to Pingtung, 500 kilometers.
Let's say 700,000.
Okay, Leslie, you want to make a guess?
I'm doing a lot of math in my head right now. I'll go with 1 million.
All right, let's have a look at the answer.
Oh, wow. 2 million
2
people.
million people. So this was definitely
That's a
the
lot of people.
biggest demonstration in Taiwan's history. So now let's go on to this next demonstration from 2013. And this involved protesters wearing white shirts, and it was sparked by the death of one young man. Do you know who that man was?
He was in the military.
Hong Zong-cho.
Hong Zong-cho. Very good. So he was a 24-year-old military conscript. He died of a heat stroke. He was punished for doing something wrong. Do you know what he did?
He was ratting on his superiors, right?
Well, they say that the problem was that he brought his cell phone into an army
Okay.
base. And it's obviously it's more complicated than that. But people were really upset about the cruelty of his death and the kind of the tough environment of the military. The question I want to ask you, the number I'm looking for is, How many people were convicted in the death of Hong Zhongqiu?
Oh. I don't remember.
26?
3? I have no idea.
So this is actually a really tough question to answer. Let's have a look at the answer.
6
6.
convicted.
So
Okay.
there were 6 people that were convicted. Of those, 5 served terms in jail. Now, I want to say that a lot more people were punished for this in the military. Dozens of people, faced punishment within the military. But a lot of things changed after this. This was a really influential demonstration in Taiwan. The defense minister stepped down. The president apologized. They changed the laws to protect people in the military, the conscripts, from really unfair punishment. And they also abolished court-martial during peacetime. So in other words, if something like this were to happen, it would go straight into the regular courts, not into a military court. All right, last demonstration. What is the largest student-led demonstration in Taiwan's history?
Sunflower movement?
I would say sunflower.
This was indeed the Sunflower Movement. Do you know what they were protesting against?
Yes, a cross-strait trade pact that just went really quickly in the legislature without a discussion.
Exactly. So it was a cross-strait service trade agreement. They were angry that it had been kind of nailed down behind closed doors, and they were afraid that this was going to lay out the groundwork for unification with China. Now, the number that we're looking for here is these students occupied Taiwan's legislature. For how many days did the students occupy the legislature in Taiwan?
I'll say 49.
49
Well, I guess
days?
something.
Okay.
I was going to say 76.
76? All right, let's have a look at the answer.
23.
Oh, wow.
It
Seemed like a really long
felt like a
time.
really long time, right? It felt like a
They
really
were there
long time.
forever.
It did feel like a long time, didn't it?
Yeah.
So 23 days. Now, those pictures that you saw just there, I took a lot of those pictures when I went to the legislature.
Oh, wow.
I actually went into the legislature itself to do some shows, and fascinating to watch the students coming together, organizing. They were very well organized. They had a lot of art that was created, a lot of creativity that came out of this. Now, I don't know if you remember how it ended. There was a peaceful ending. There was a huge rally of nearly 500,000 people in downtown Taipei, people wearing black, and they postponed the review of this trade pact. So this was also a very, I guess you could call it a successful demonstration in Taiwan's history. Mm-hmm. So there you go. That's just a couple of the biggest and most important demonstrations in Taiwan's history. And up next, we're going to go to Leslie for #Taiwan.
This week on #Taiwan, I want to talk to you about something a little more serious. I want to talk to you about what's going on in the United States of America. You might have seen this image plastered all over your Instagram. It shows support for the #Black Lives Matter movement. But organizers are asking people not to use that hashtag with this image because it prevents people from getting vital information. So instead of showing you a black screen, I'm going to talk about how the Taiwanese community has come together to help. Most recently, people are protesting the death of this man, George Floyd. Floyd was killed in Minneapolis, Minnesota when a white police officer knelt on his neck for 8 minutes, suffocating him. Floyd's offense? He was accused of using a counterfeit $20 bill and resisting arrest. American citizens are protesting because Floyd is just one of many black people killed at the hands of police and in racist incidents. Taiwanese American communities have come together to show support for Black Lives Matter on social media. The Taiwanese American Citizens League retweeted this image by Asian American artist Kalayaan Mendoza, which says Taiwanese for Black Lives. In the center is a raised fist, a symbol of black power. Mendoza is of Filipino heritage, but he's customized his design for various Asian communities. Esme Wei-Jun Wong also tweeted out her own picture showing a pair of hands entwined in solidarity. Duke professor Eileen Chow on Twitter responded to a question asking how someone might translate Black Lives Matter into Chinese. She proposed the phrase "黑命无价," which translates to "Black lives are priceless." It's a play on words because it can also be read as "Black lives are given no worth." Yellow peril is a term historically used in the United States to describe the threat Asians pose to Western society. Asian Americans have since reclaimed the term as a form of empowerment. Take a look at this image. Asians can show support for black people without suggesting that we know exactly what they've been through. The slogan here is, "I understand that I will never understand, however I stand." While the experience is different, Taiwan history might provide some hope. Alton Wong points out that Taiwanese Americans should remember that Taiwan's democratic roots were the riots that faced a brutal crackdown by the government, killing thousands and leading to white terror and martial law. Martial law only ended because of continued protests and actions taken by the people. For more information, I highly recommend this article. We'll have a link below. That's all I have for you this week. Until next week, stay safe, stay healthy, and show support for one another.
The Black Lives Matter protests have gone global. Have a look at some of the places around the world that have seen protests. Everywhere from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where George Floyd was killed, to Athens, Jerusalem, Paris, Rio, and Tokyo.
People have been mobilizing here in Taiwan as well. If you'd like more information on how you can help, you can look up Black Lives Matter Taiwan on their Facebook page at facebook.com/BLM Taiwan.
You'll find information on how to sign up to donate your time, money, and talents. And there's also an event this Saturday in Taipei for those that want to learn more.
It's time for our lightning round news quiz. Feel free to play along at home while I see if these two guys have been paying attention. You guys ready?
I haven't either.
Okay, 60 seconds on the clock.
Okay.
All right, go. What major newspaper shut down this week?
United Evening News.
Right.
United Evening News.
Very good. How is Taiwan planning to open up to different countries and different visitors from different countries?
Different levels of quarantine.
Very good. What sold out within 10 minutes on online shopping sites because they just entered the market?
Face masks.
That's right. Who got Taiwan's first 5G license?
European company.
Is it?
It is.
Far East Tone?
No.
Chunghwa Telecom.
That's right.
There's only so many you can go before we get it.
What medical facilities are in the 4,000-ton newly launched Coast Guard ship Jia?
Medical facilities? Testing sites for COVID-19.
COVID-19 testing?
Negative
scans?
pressure isolation
Oh,
wards
wow.
and a
Okay.
surgery room. What was inaugurated on World Bicycle Day?
A new path to Geelong from Taipei City.
Wow.
That's right, a 1,300-meter bikeway along the Geelong River. It connects Taipei, New Taipei, and Geelong.
Wow.
And what fashion items sold out in Tainan because Health Minister Chen Shih-chung wore them?
It's a shirt that has little spoonbill birds on it.
You saw that video.
No.
You're right. Something else too.
It was little backpacks that have a fish on them.
Okay, he was wearing those.
Yeah.
Those didn't sell out. Something else too. Well, we'll have to take a look at the video. I mean, they're really cool shirts. Let's see what Chen Shih-chung sported and how he's setting some fashion trends. With COVID-19 contained, Health Minister Chen Shih-chung is now promoting domestic travel. Look at his bag. It resembles a tin of Tainan milkfish. He says if we're in a good mood, it helps prevent disease. Milkfish are popular in Tainan. Mr. Ke says milkfish are an important element of Tainan, so why not make them into a handbag? Minister Chen is also setting fashion trends. If you look closely at the pattern on his shirt, you'll see black-faced spoonbills from Tainan's Chigu Lagoon. Ke said he gave the shirts to Mr. Chen. That was smart because Chen has become quite the celebrity. The head of Tainan's Cultural Affairs Bureau, Jason Ye, says the black-faced spoonbill shirts have become very popular. They're sold out, but they are taking phone orders. And the straw hat Chen sported, they're sold out too. Looks like wherever he goes, whatever he does, Taiwan's beloved health minister is making a difference.
Thanks so much for joining us for this inside look at Taiwan this week. Be sure to connect with us on social media.
Yes, leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you. For Taiwan Insider, I am Natalie So.
I'm Leslie Liao.
And I'm Andrew Ryan. We'll see you next week.